Hello. One of my dogs is awaiting medical results at the moment from a veterinary test, which might turn out to be something manageable or it may turn out to be something very serious. Which has led me to think a lot about dogs and the role of dogs in stories, in religions, in mythology from around the world. There are numerous tales, some involving dogs that are huge and terrifying and monstrous, and some involving dogs that are gentle and loving and heroic. So the tale I'm going to tell today is quite a short Irish story. I may pad it a little bit as we go along, but it's a tale told in one version where the dog is called Failinis, and in another version where it's called Fermac. But the tale in both cases is almost identical with a few minor differences. So this is the tale of the dog Fermac. Long ago, over the seas from the far distant north, there came a great long ship, bearing with it many merchants and traders and travellers, and with them their dogs, their cats, in one case their rats, and they came to Ireland to trade. And on this ship there were three men, Du, Ag and Ilar, and they came with their dog Fermac. And they explored the land of Ireland, they traded here, they dealt there, they brought goods elsewhere. Deeper and deeper into the land of Ireland they went, and with them went their dog. Now, during the day, when they were out doing business, this dog was enormous. It stood the size of a horse, with great slavering fangs and glowing red eyes, a huge, lumbering, burdensome beast that terrorised all of the people they came across and ensured that no one, no robbers or brigands or avaricious princes or chieftains dared to rob these three men of the wealth that they had built up in their trading. And more than just being huge and terrifying, this creature had the most wondrous magical abilities. For when the men recited certain magical words, the dog would begin to cough and cough and cough, and out would come not dog sick, as you may be imagining, but depending upon which of three spells the men had recited, the one known by Du would cause the dog to vomit up gold coins. The one known by Ag caused the dog to vomit up silver coins, and there are those who would say the most useful spell of all was the one known by Ilar, which caused the dog to vomit up mead. Gallons and gallons and gallons of mead, and Ilar and the other two would stand there with buckets and basins and bowls to capture this mead. And if the thought of drinking something vomited up by a dog sounds beyond disgusting, and I wonder if those of you who have consumed certain muck drinks might be as disgusted by this as I am by the things that you drink, it tasted nothing like you would imagine dog's vomit to taste. It was the most exquisite, the most wonderful, the most beautiful mead going. It was intoxicating in every sense of the word. And they were able to sell urn after urn after urn of this wondrous wine, this honeyed mead, to village after village after village. And they were much sought after, and they made an absolute fortune, not just in terms of the gold and silver vomited up by the dog, but the trade that they engaged in, swapping these goods for those goods. They became considerably wealthy men. And when they would arrive in a village, once the trading was done and people had oohed and ahed in amazement at the sight of this magical dog, they would seek a place of shelter, somewhere to put up for the night. They would go to the local hostelry and say, "Have you a room for us?" And every hostel they came to, naturally the person in charge of it, the man or woman in charge of it, would say, "Well, we can house you, but we've got nowhere big enough to house that enormous great dog." Except the men said, "Don't worry, the dog will come in the room with us." And the hostelers would all say, it's an ordinary sized bedroom. You can't possibly fit a dog the size of a horse in a bedroom like that. Don't be insane. But the men will say, do not worry. For when the hour of darkness fell across the land, that enormous, massive dog would get smaller and smaller and smaller, until by the witching hour he was no bigger than a lapdog, no bigger than a Jack Russell, a little terrier that would snuggle up in the bed covers with one or other of the three men that had brought him. And it was a wonder to the hostel keepers who, having bid good night to their three strange guests and their massive dog, wondering if they would find the room trashed in the morning where they'd tried to haul this enormous beast into it, and you know what dogs are like, for scratching and tearing at things, would awaken in the morning worried that they were going to find their guest rooms destroyed, and be amazed to see the three men up and alert and awake, leading this massive dog out of an unscathed room. For just as with the hours of darkness the dog shrank, so with the spreading dawn the dog began to grow and grow and grow, and the men had to be up early to ensure that he was outside the room before it became so enormous that he would destroy the room. And as you might imagine, rumour spread rife around all of the villages they'd been to of this dog that could vomit up gold and silver and mead, and had this huge fearsome beast that could be used in warfare and battle to savage any enemy, let alone guard the gold and silver and lakes of mead which it had vomited up. And many men desired it. Indeed, the King of Ulster sent two of his own sons, brave, fierce, dangerous men, little more than bandits themselves, they were so ruthless, to spy upon this dog and to capture it. For he had heard the stories of how in hostel after hostel somehow they'd managed to get this gigantic dog into small, ordinary-sized rooms, and he began to wonder if maybe something happened in the night that would make this dog a little bit easier to bundle under an arm or sling in a sack and carry off. So the two sons of the King of Ulster came, secretly following the three men from the far distant north. And they watched them in their day's trading, and they watched them approach the hostel keeper, and they overheard the conversation, same as 100 other conversations about the size of the room and the size of the dog. And they watched. And as the men were busy drinking the mead, and it was getting darker and darker and darker, they could see the dog, that enormous, enormous, savage-looking dog, getting a little smaller, and a little smaller, and a little smaller, until the three men, bleary-eyed from far too much mead after a hugely successful business deal, said, we better get into the room before anyone notices what's happening with the dog. And they took the beast, which was then the size of a pony, it shrunk down to the size of a pony, into the room with them. And the two princes of Ulster crept up and peered through the window in the hostel, and they saw that dog get smaller and smaller and smaller until it was no bigger than a terrier. And the two men thought, this is our ideal opportunity. We'll sneak in whilst those three drunken hogs are snoring away, stuff the puppy dog in a sack, chuck it over our backs and carry off with it. Well, they snuck into the room as quiet could be. They took the dog, which was whimpering in its sleep, as dogs will do, and they carried it off under their arm. And outside of the hostel room, because they wanted to, just in case the dog woke up and started yipping, they didn't want to do anything that would disturb the three sleeping Norsemen. They opened the sack ready to stuff the dog in, and it woke up and looked at them with great puppy dog eyes and yipped. And trying to quiet the dog down, they stroked it, and the tail began to wag. And wag, and wag, and wag with such speed that the bag that they were going to stuff the dog in blew away upon the wind. And the trees outside the hostel began to shake, and the leaves began to fall down from the trees as if it was all... And the wind whipped up and whipped up and whipped up, and the dog's tail, small as it was, whipped up a whirlwind which picked up the two princes of Ulster and hurled them miles and miles and miles away before depositing them in a broken and mangled heap, impaled upon their own swords which they had been prepared to use upon the three men of the north. And so the plans of the King of Ulster came to nothing, and the three men with the Mach, the magical dog, continued on their way, and what became of them is another tale, and sadly one not known to any of the scribes of Ireland.